Before the trophy, before the headlines, before the rain-soaked final that rewrote history, there was a quiet decision made inside a sun-drenched tennis academy on the Spanish island of Majorca. A decision that nobody outside those walls could have predicted. And it started with a phone call. Imagine spending 7 years climbing to the absolute summit of professional tennis. Standing beside a world number one as he lifts titles on every surface, every continent. Sharing locker rooms, late-night strategy sessions, and the kind of trust that only comes from years of fighting together. Now imagine walking away from all of it. Not because you failed, not because you burned out, but because you found something better, something quieter, something slower, something that felt more like purpose than obligation. That is exactly what Joan Bosch did. And the ripple effects of that quiet choice are still being felt today. Every time a 21-year-old from Quezon City, Philippines, walks onto a tennis court and does the unthinkable. Most people in the tennis world know the name Carlos Moya, the Spaniard who climbed to world number one in 1999, the man who won the French Open in 1998, one of the most formidable players of his generation, a champion built on raw power, tactical intelligence, and relentless competitive fire. What fewer people know is the name of the man who stood beside him for 7 straight years, Joan Bosch. For 7 years, Bosch served as Moya's coach, confidant, and closest professional partner. Together, they won the Davis Cup. Together, they collected more than a dozen ATP titles, including Masters 1000 crowns in Cincinnati and Rome. Together, they built something rare in professional sports, a relationship forged so deep that Bosch would later describe Moya not just as a player he coached, but as his best friend. Carlos was practically my best friend, Bosch would later confess. That's why we lasted 7 years. His parents are like my parents. That kind of bond doesn't come along twice in a lifetime. And Bosch knew it. When Moya finally stepped away from professional tennis, Bosch made a decision that surprised nearly everyone who knew him. He didn't look for another superstar. He didn't pursue the next rising ATP contender. He didn't seek out another world number one in the making. Instead, he retreated. He took a role as director of the sports technification program for the Balearic government, working with young athletes still finding their footing. Then, quietly, he found his way to the Rafa Nadal Academy in Manacor, Majorca, the institution established in 2016 by the 22-time Grand Slam champion himself, where he became the head coach of the under-18 program, overseeing around 70 young players. He was comfortable. He was content. The pressure of elite professional tennis was behind him. He had made his peace with a quieter chapter, and by all accounts, he was genuinely happy with that choice. He wasn't looking for another superstar. But sometimes, the story finds you. In 2018, a 12-year-old girl from Quezon City in the Philippines walked through the gates of the Rafa Nadal Academy. Her name was Alex Eala. She arrived with a racket, a backpack, and a dream that most people around her probably thought was too big. The academy had produced exceptional talent before. It was an environment designed to transform promising juniors into world-class competitors, combining elite tennis coaching with formal academic education, physical conditioning, mental resilience training, and the values that defined Nadal's own legendary career. But even within that demanding ecosystem, certain players stood out. And from the very beginning, Tony Nadal was watching. Rafa's uncle, his longtime coach, the architect behind 22 Grand Slam titles and one of the most dominant careers in the history of sport. Tony Nadal had spent decades identifying and developing elite talent. He had an eye for something that statistics couldn't capture, that invisible quality that separates a good player from a genuinely special one. He saw it in Alex Eala. And when the moment came for her to take the next step, he knew exactly who to call. The call came to Joan Bosch. Tony Nadal had been monitoring Eala's development closely since she arrived at 12 years old. He had watched her grow, compete, and evolve through the academy's rigorous system. And by the time she was approaching the threshold between junior tennis and the professional tour, he was convinced this young woman needed a coach with championship DNA. Someone who had been there before. Someone who understood what it truly took to compete at the highest level, not just physically, but mentally, tactically, and emotionally. someone like Bosch. I trusted Alex from the beginning, Bosch recalled later, although it was Tony Nadal who initially suggested it to me. What Bosch found when he first stepped onto the court with Eala wasn't just raw talent. It was something rarer, something harder to develop. Intelligence. She's a very intelligent person, he said. Very easy to coach. Being with her on the court is a pleasure. She's competitive, but she goes to the court to learn. She's very rational. For a coach who had spent 7 years working alongside one of the most mentally formidable players in ATP history, those words carried enormous weight. Bosch knew exactly what it looked like when a player had the mental architecture to become a champion. He had seen it in Moya. He was now seeing it again, but in a 21-year-old Filipina who had barely begun her professional journey. The partnership was set, and almost immediately, everything accelerated. Their first real test together came sooner than either of them expected. I remember she had a good end to the season, which allowed us to play the Australian Open qualifying the following year, Bosch recalled. It wasn't a glamorous beginning. Qualifying rounds, long travel days, the grinding uncertainty of early professional tennis. But Bosch had been through it all before with Moya. He understood that foundations matter more than early results. He understood that the process, not the prize, was always the real work. What he didn't fully anticipate was just how quickly those foundations would produce something extraordinary. The Miami Open changed everything. Eala walked into that tournament as a player ranked 140th in the world. She walked out having stunned 3 Grand Slam champions. 3. In a single tournament. The tennis world sat up and paid attention, not just to the results, but to the manner in which she achieved them. Precise. Composed under pressure in a way that defied her ranking and her age. She didn't just win matches in Miami. She announced herself. By the end of that tournament, she had climbed from world number 140 to number 75. A climb of 65 places in the span of 1 week. She had reached the semifinals of a WTA 1000 event. And she had made it impossible for anyone in professional tennis to ignore her any longer. For me, it was a surprise to achieve what we achieved in Miami, Bosch admitted honestly. I always knew she could be in the top 100, but it all happened so quickly. Very quickly. That might be the understatement of the year. But Miami was only the beginning. What followed was a string of milestones that read less like the early career of a developing professional and more like the highlight reel of an established star. She became the first Filipino player to reach the 4th round at Wimbledon. Let that sink in. The 4th round at Wimbledon, on grass, at one of the most pressure-filled tournaments in the history of the sport, for the very first time by any player from the Philippines. On those legendary courts, in front of the entire world. And still, she was only getting started. The Rafa Nadal Academy described her from the beginning as a special project. At the Academy, we're clear that this is a special project because it's also borne the hallmark of the Rafa Nadal Academy, Bosch explained. Ever since she arrived at the age of 12. If we didn't see it with that enthusiasm, it wouldn't work. The enthusiasm was there from both sides. That mutual enthusiasm, between a coach with championship experience and a player with championship potential, was fueling something historic. The Academy's holistic model was perfectly designed for a player like Eala. The combination of world-class coaching, academic education, physical conditioning, and the mental values embedded in Nadal's own ethos gave her something that talent alone could never provide. A complete foundation. A champion's infrastructure. A system that had already been tested and proven at the very top of the game. Francis Carlos Diaz, executive director of the Philippines National Academy for Sports, put it clearly. Alex Eala is an example of an athlete who was groomed by a sports academy, the Rafael Nadal Academy, with an academic program embedded in her training. And then, in November 2025, something happened that no coaching manual could have scripted. It had been exactly 1 year since Rafael Nadal played his final professional match. 1 year since the greatest clay court player in history retired from the sport he had dominated for 2 decades. And when he stepped back onto a tennis court for the first time, he chose to share that moment with Alex Eala. The 22-time Grand Slam champion trained alongside the young Filipina in a session that Eala would later describe as something out of a dream. "Training with Rafa is something people and kids can only dream of," she said. "It was an incredible pleasure to share the court with him. He gave me some tips on my forehand and a few other small pieces of advice." Nadal, never short of grace, responded on social media, "1 year later, it was a great feeling to be back on a tennis court. It was great to train with you, Alex Eala. Next time I'll be stronger." For a girl who had walked through the gates of his academy at 12 years old with nothing but a racket and a dream, this moment carried a weight that words can barely hold. But the story wasn't finished yet. Not even close. Washington, D.C., 2026. The D.C. Open. The tournament that would permanently separate Alex Eala's story into two distinct chapters, before and after. She had already beaten 7 top 10 opponents in 2026 alone, 9 in her career overall. She had become one of the most dangerous players on the WTA Tour, not because of brute power or a single dominant weapon, but because of the thing Joan Bosch had recognized from their very first session together. Intelligence. Tactical intelligence. Emotional intelligence. The ability to read a match, adapt in real time, and perform at her absolute best when the pressure was at its absolute highest. She won the DC Open, a WTA 500 title, the first WTA 500 title ever captured by a Southeast Asian player. Her career-high ranking climbed to world number 20, a position that, just a few years earlier, would have seemed like a fantasy for any player from the Philippines, let alone one who had entered professional tennis as a relative unknown from Quezon City. When the trophy was in her hands, Rafael Nadal was watching. He shared a photo of Eala lifting the trophy and wrote, "Muy merecido," well-deserved, celebrating the growth of a player he had followed closely since she was a teenager walking the hallways of his academy. Joan Bosch, for his part, deflected the praise with characteristic humility. "The project is going well, but it's not me who's the reason," he said. He pointed instead to the broader support system at the academy, the network of coaches, educators, and mentors who had contributed to Eala's development over the years, including fellow coach Alexandro Vane. But the facts tell a different story, or rather, a more complete one. Bosch had built his coaching philosophy across 7 years alongside Carlos Moya. Every drill, every tactical adjustment, every hard conversation in the locker room after a difficult loss, all of it had been compressed into a methodology that valued 3 things above everything else: adaptation, learning, performing under pressure. Those 3 principles had shaped Moya into a world number 1. And now, applied to a 21-year-old from the Philippines, they were producing something that the tennis world was struggling to fully comprehend. "You can't go outside certain parameters if you want to be good," Bosch explained. "You have to have all the strokes. But if you have a professional player, the situation changes. For example, with Carlos, I tried to make him play as much as possible with his forehand, but now I can't do the same with other players. Every player is different. Every relationship is different." That was perhaps the deepest lesson Bosch had learned across his career, that great coaching isn't about applying the same formula twice. It's about understanding the person in front of you. With Moya, it had been a partnership forged through intensity and trust, and a friendship that ran deeper than the sport itself. "Carlos was practically my best friend," Bosch said. "That's why we lasted 7 years. His parents are like my parents. That reality will never happen again." With Eala, it was something different, but no less real. A different bond, one still growing, still finding its way. "Alex is young, talented, and has a lot to improve," Bosch said, "which is ultimately what we coaches like. Sometimes when they bring us a very accomplished player, you don't know what to say to her. With all the room for improvement, it's normal to have that tendency to look beyond, to see where we can go. Where they can go." In just over 2 years of working together, Alex Eala went from a promising junior to a WTA 500 champion. From world number 140 to world number 20. From a girl who walked into a tennis academy in Mallorca at the age of 12, dreaming of a career that hadn't begun yet, to the first Filipina to win a WTA singles title. And if you ask Joan Bosch where this story ends, he'll smile. And he'll tell you that it's only just getting started. There are coaches who build careers. And there are coaches who build legacies. Joan Bosch spent 7 years building a career alongside one of Spain's greatest champions. He walked away with a Davis Cup, more than a dozen ATP titles, and memories of a friendship that he knows will never be replicated. And then, quietly on the sun-drenched courts of the Rafa Nadal Academy, prompted by a phone call from a legend, drawn in by the intelligence of a young woman from Quezon City, he began building something else entirely. A legacy. Alex Eala. World number 20. WTA 500 champion. The first Filipina to reach the 4th round of Wimbledon. The first Southeast Asian player to win a WTA 500 title. A player who has defeated 9 top 10 opponents in her young career. A player who trained alongside Rafael Nadal himself and earned his personal congratulations on the world's biggest stage. And behind every one of those milestones, standing quietly at the edge of the court, watching, adjusting, trusting the process, is a coach who already knew what a champion looked like. Because he had stood beside one before. The blueprint was already written. The championship pedigree already established. The lessons already absorbed across 7 extraordinary years at the very top of professional tennis. All it needed was the right player. And on a warm afternoon in Mallorca in 2018, when a 12-year-old girl from the Philippines walked through those academy gates for the very first time, that player had finally arrived.